What is left to be said about two pies? Brian has always loved his birthday, like every other tiny 7-year-old. And when he spent most of last week talking to anyone who'd listen about where he should hold his birthday, he asked me, is this alright, is this too much? And I said, no, Brian, you should have a birthday where you're with the people that you love, Lou and me. Only joking, Bobo. When I first met Brian in 1993, I think it was in Toto's shows they put on at the David Land Arts Centre. That bit's meant to be quite moving, actually, that sentence, for people who miss those days. He actually bought me a pint and then discovered that I already had a boyfriend. So that was £1.90 thrown down the drain. He later told me. When I first met Brian's friends, I was appalled by the constant stream of what seemed to be jeering, name-calling and abuse. And then I was taken to one side and told that this is actually a sign of affection and it's only right that I should join in. And so by the end of that night, I too was drinking carbon white and slagging Brian off verbally and in picture form. Now, Joseph Nixon actually trained me. Out of all of the portraits that all of us did of Brian, everyone voted that Joseph's were the best, and we all had to copy him. I felt very honoured when I first met Brian. About the first evening I got to spend with him on our own, I was treated to a very open-hearted, almost Reef lecture-like rant about how the director of his play didn't understand his work and was pushing the actors in the wrong direction. And 15 years later, I'm glad to say that that has been resolved and no longer occurs. I was truly concerned, really concerned for this man opening his heart, and then that passed. In attempts to undermine and torture Brian, more than a normal person might be inclined to do, during the time when I lived with Brian at Prestonville Road with Katie Clark and Claire Harris above Sam Hewitt and Jason Pegg, I don't know why I had to say all their names, I just wrote them down. I started to keep a journal called Life with Brian. Unfortunately, Brian was delighted about this. Damn you! I actually put the folder called Life with Brian on a stool in my room on a sort of plinth. So he opened the door to ask if he could borrow a £5 and then went, "Can I so I'm sure you'll be very sad to hear now that it's actually been lost. It hasn't really. It contained entire transcripts of conversations we'd have, and everything that Brian said I'd write down and illustrate in cartoon strips. And I'll give you an example. This one was actually artificially encouraged by me, and then Brian noticed. So it consisted of Brian coming into the kitchen going, that cigarette didn't taste very nice. And I said, really, Brian? Why's that? And he went, why are you so interested? You're doing that Life with Brian, aren't you? And I had a bit of paper under a cushion and I was writing it all down. I wish I did have it actually to read extras, but I don't have it, which is quite good because it's gone forever if I did. Dum dum dum. Oh yes, and there was a limerick in there written by Brian entitled Brian.
Oh no!
I don't have it, so I can't read it out, but I do remember the first 2 lines, which I'm going to tell you. And the 2 lines were, there once was a young man called Brian who was handsome and brave like a lion. And finally, the last bit now, finally, thank you so much. I was going to now open up the floor for questions about my intimate relationship with Brian. But I decided it would be too dangerous for me. And Dave. And Katie and me. And him. And you. And you. So